Get ready for some Dollar Tree DIYs inspired by Kirkland's spring catalog. You won't believe how fun and easy it is to recreate these decor pieces at a fraction of the cost. And as always, DIY treats. Welcome to my channel, Craft, Eat, Repeat. Hey guys, it's Aneka and welcome to my channel, Craft, Eat, Repeat. So today's video is a combination of two of my favorite things, and that is Dollar Tree DIYs and Kirkland's. Now, I can't really afford Kirkland's, so I decided one night while I was scrolling through the Kirkland's website and looking at their spring catalog that I was gonna try to make a few of those things out of Dollar Tree products. So I did that and I love how they came out and I really hope you like it. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you like what you see, please go ahead and subscribe, and everybody hit that notification bell so you'll be ready when my next video comes out. And after we're done, don't forget to go down and leave me a comment. And as you guys know, I often collaborate with some of my very favorite crafters here on YouTube, and today's video is one of those collaborations. So after you get done with my video, head down to the description box below and check out the playlist that we have with some other amazing crafters doing some spring DIYs. Okay guys, it's time to craft. Okay, I'm going to start out by recreating this wall decor that I saw. It was originally $34.99 in the Kirkland's website, but I'm going to make it for $8. I'm going to start out with these canvases that I got from Dollar Tree. I found it easiest to start to pull the canvas off and then use needle nose pliers to pull out the staples. Once I stripped all the canvas off, I used my X-Acto knife to break through the glue that was holding this bar in the middle on. There's also a staple in there, so I wasn't able to cut all the way through, but once I broke up the glue, I was able to loosen it up enough to get it off of the staple. Now guys, if you're going to use this method, be sure and be very careful with your X-Acto knife. Once it was loosened up, I could just rotate it and pull it open just enough to get that middle piece out, and then I used some needle nose pliers to pull out the staple that was holding it all together. Once I did that, I just used some sandpaper to sand down any glue that was remaining, and that was it. I did that to all four pieces, and then I laid them out in the pattern that our wall decor is going to be, and I used hot glue to hold it all together. Now, as you'll see, we're going to be using glass bottles on this, and it did end up being pretty heavy by the end, a very nice piece of decor. However, I think because of the weight and size of it, I would go ahead and use some E6000 or Gorilla Glue to hold your pieces together just to make sure that everything stays together nicely. Once I put my pieces together in this grid, I decided to go ahead and paint it. Now, the inside of these canvases are not made out of wood like the blank canvases that you get at Dollar Tree. There's some kind of compressed material, but I wanted to make it look more like wood. So I watered down some brown paint, painted it on, and then wiped it off, sort of like a wood stain. You won't see any wood grains like you would with the other canvases. However, this did make it have more of a wood look. Once it was all covered, I grabbed some white chalk paint and I used that to add a little rustic weathering to it, as well as some strokes to make it look like wood grain. Now, I used a dry brush technique for this, which means I got just a little bit of paint on my brush, wiped most of it off onto a napkin, and then used that almost completely dry brush to just go through and do some weathering and some wood grain type strokes. Next, we're going to use some rope, and this is what we're going to use to hang the bottles on our wall decor. Now, the nautical rope that comes at Dollar Tree was a little too thick for what I wanted, so I untwisted it, and then I cut it into about 12-inch pieces. Now, this was more rope than I needed, but I'm a firm believer that it's better to have too much and cut it off than to have too little and have to start all over. So I took my 12-inch piece of nautical rope, and I hot glued it onto my bottle. I wrapped it around once or twice, and then I secured it into my frame. Once again, I used hot glue for this in the interest of time, but since these are heavy, I would use some E6000 or Gorilla Glue and then put your hot glue on top so that it sticks very quickly. That way it will be nice and secure. After the glue was set, I grabbed another piece of that nautical rope and I wrapped it around the top of the frame. I tied it with a knot, and this is just to give it a little more visual interest. Once I trimmed my rope, I did the same thing to the other parts of the decor, and this is what I came out with. I think this looks so beautiful and it looks so much like the inspiration piece. I can't believe I was able to make it for a fraction of the cost. Next, I wanted to make this bowl. I loved how it was bright. I loved the blue on it, but I did not like the price tag. So I'm going to make it for a much more affordable cost. I started out with this garden bowl from Dollar Tree. I used some rubbing alcohol to get any grease off, and I used some Goo Gone to get the adhesive from the price sticker that was on it. Next, I used this fabric. I got this from Hobby Lobby. It was on sale, and for half a yard, it was only $4, and I didn't even end up using half of that. So I'm going to say I used about $2 worth of fabric, even though I think that's actually an overestimation. So I'm going to lay my fabric right over my bowl, and then I'm just going to cut around it. I'm going to have some extra fabric past where the edge will be, but that will just make it easier to work with as we're putting it onto our bowl. So I'm going to take some Mod Podge and cover the entire bowl. And make sure you get a nice layer of Mod Podge on there. Next, I'm going to lay my fabric on wrong side up. This way, when we look at our bowl, we'll be seeing the right side of it through the plastic. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, guys, is that I used a plastic bowl because I think I'm going to be moving this around and kind of using it around my house. But you could do the same thing with a glass bowl if you wanted it to be a little more sturdy. Now, make sure that you Mod Podge all the way to the edge and you get all your edges secure. Once all of your fabric is secured onto the bowl, you're going to put another generous layer of Mod Podge on top. Now, I left this to dry overnight, and when I came back, it was completely dry, it was nice and hard, and it was ready for me to trim the fabric. So I went around and tried to make sure that I stayed as close as possible to the edge of the bowl. I went back after I cut the initial piece off and did some more trimming just to try to get it very close to the edge. Now, when I originally conceptualized this, I wanted to use twine on the back, which I did change my mind later, as you'll see. But to do that, I found the middle, which is easy because there's a little bump right in the middle of the bowl, and then I just used a pencil to mark that spot on the back. This let me know where to start my twine, which later I decided to use the nautical rope instead. So I put the twine on there, but you guys, this was so frustrating to do. It kept coming apart. I tried it with hot glue, I tried it with Mod Podge, and it was just giving me more trouble than I wanted. So I decided to switch to using the nautical rope, which was much easier to do. And I actually think it came out even nicer because it gives a little more heft to this plastic bowl. If you run out of nautical rope, go ahead and glue the end of your piece on and then start another piece right in the same spot and continue rotating and gluing until all of your rope is attached. I ended up using 2 packs of nautical rope on this, so I would say go ahead and buy 3 just in case you need a little extra, because I used almost exactly 2 and I would hate for you to run out in the middle of your project. Now, once it was done, I just cut off the edge and glued it onto the row of rope right below it. And there I had my bowl. This came out so beautifully. It was only $5 to put together. I love the bright blue and I just can't get enough of it. Next, I wanted to make this planter which was almost $70, you guys. So I'm gonna make mine for two. I'm not claiming that mine is the same quality as theirs, but as far as the look, I love how it came out and I plan to make more. I'm going to start out with this Dollar Tree planter, which I painted white, but left the inside the terracotta color. Next, because I couldn't find my tape measure, I used a piece of ribbon so that I can make dots all along the bottom and the top ridge of this, and this is where I'm going to drill some holes to add my twine. I started out by making my dots every 2 inches, but as you guys will see, I was kind of trying to figure this out as I went, and I realized later that I should have made a dot every inch along the bottom and the top. Now this planter is nice because it actually has some lines on it so that you can make some nice straight edges where your dot should go, and then along the top I just use the top ridge as my guide. So when you're doing yours, do a dot every 1 inch along the bottom. Then you're going to come in and in between each dot, you're going to put another dot, so at about 1/2 inch, and then use your ruler to find exactly where that spot is on the top ridge. So what you want is for your top dots to be exactly halfway in between your bottom dots. This is going to give us those nice diagonals when we add our twine. Now because this planter tapers outwards, it's not exactly 1 inch between dots on the top, which is why I use this method to find halfway on the bottom and then use my ruler to find where my dot should be on the top. Next, I use a drill to drill holes on each one of my dots, and this was pretty easy to get through. This planter is not very heavy weight, so the drill went through really easily. Just be sure to be careful and take your time because this is plastic. It's easy to break the planter, but if you do, that's okay. I suggest just using a little dab of hot glue to fix the part that was broken, and then once the hot glue dries, you can just paint right over that. Once I had all my holes drilled, I came back with some chalk paint and just finished up with another layer of paint. So now I'm going to show you how I decided to do my twine. Now I don't do needlework or anything like that. I'm sure some of you out there probably have a better method to complete this pattern. I did the best I could, but if you have any other ideas, please let me know down in the comments because I like the look of this and I plan to make more. So if there's an easier way, I'd love to know what it is. So I started by just hot gluing one edge of my twine on the inside of my planter. And I didn't do it here, but what I did later was I put a little bit of tape around the end just to make it easier to thread through. If you have a needle that's large enough for this, you could also use that to make it easier. So I started by putting my twine through one of the holes, and then I put it through the next diagonal hole in the bottom. Now coming back up to the top, I skipped one hole on the top, pulled it through, and then I went around the top and pulled it out of the outside of the pot. This is how I made my loops along the top of the planter. Once that loop was there, I went to the next diagonal hole on the bottom and put my twine through there. And then I continued with this same pattern all the way around my planter. I skipped a hole on the top, came out of that hole, wrapped it around the top of the planter, came back out of that same hole, and then found my next diagonal hole on the bottom. Now once this was completed, I used the same method all over again, but I went in the opposite direction, and this is what created that crisscross pattern all the way around my planter. So I got another piece of twine and I started by putting my twine through the hole on the top, coming down diagonally to the bottom, going back up to the top, and I should have cut my twine a little shorter on this one. It would have been easier to work with. Sorry guys, you get to watch me struggle with this twine for a second. I went around the top of my planter and then I continued that way all the way around. And this gave me X's all along the sides of my planter. Now, I actually think these X's are pretty cute. You could just leave it this way, but I wanted to make it look a little more like the inspiration piece. So what I did was come back through with some twine, and I just made some X's with the twine in between the X's that were already there. I didn't need to worry about going around the top because all of my holes already had that loop around the top. So I came out of a top hole, brought it diagonally towards the bottom hole, then I went backwards on the inside of the planter, put the twine through the bottom hole that was right next to it, came out of the front of the planter, and then went into the diagonal hole on the top. I know that that sounds really confusing, but as you're doing it at home, it will make sense. So I'm going to come out of one hole on the top, go into a hole on the bottom. On the inside of my planter, I'm going to go out of the hole right next to it, and then I'm going to go back into the hole diagonally on the top. And this is what created this beautiful pattern. I cannot believe I was able to make this for basically $2. I hope you guys enjoyed those projects. Head down to the comments below and let me know which one was your favorite. And now it's time to eat. So as you'll know, if you've been watching my channel for a while, I usually do something sweet, maybe a little whimsical, but as I was getting ready for this video and I was also kind of hungry and the weather is actually warming up outside, it's going to be a very warm 40 degrees for me this week, I decided that I was gonna go ahead and bust out one of the recipes that I love for the spring and summer. It's this chicken salad that someone made for me when I was at their house a couple years ago, and you guys, I was obsessed with it when I first ate it, and I ate it like probably every day for a week. So I'm gonna show you guys the recipe for one of my favorite types of chicken salad, and I hope you like it. Okay guys, it's time to eat. So if you're ever in the need for a quick chicken salad that will only take you 5 minutes to put together, this is what you're gonna want. I started with some chicken. This was a chopped up rotisserie that I had. I added some mandarin oranges, some pineapple, and some candied nuts. I'm gonna come back through with some poppy seed dressing, cover it all up, and you guys, that is it. This is the perfect chicken salad for a spring picnic, a summer outing, or I've even used this at baby showers. It's just got that special something that you don't get all the time in chicken salad, and it is delicious. So I hope you guys try this at home and let me know what you think. I hope you liked all these DIYs today. Don't forget to head down to the comments and let me know which one was your favorite. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And I just want to thank all you guys for your love and support. As always, you make this so fun. Okay guys, I'll see you next week when we repeat it all again.